MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, once again joined with Jason Vevang. Jason, did I already say 301? It's 301. We're here. It's another, I think, crazy week in MLS soccer as we're getting closer to wrapping up the MLS summer transfer window. Obviously, we're going to talk about more moves today, and next week will hopefully be the last episode where we have to run through a bunch of transfers, moves
35
that have happened.
transfers.
Exactly. But we do also have Leagues Cup getting to a very interesting, exciting, winding down place. There's sporting director stepping down and everything like that. So Jason, I want to start with how you're feeling. Shaqiri bought out. He's gone officially from the Chicago Fire roster. Sporting director Georg Heitz for the Chicago Fire also stepping down at the end of the 2024 season. He's going to go back to Europe. What are the we've been waiting for Chicago. Well, you've been waiting for Chicago Fire news. What is
Hey,
the feelings right now?
I've been waiting for just anything. We've gone almost the full window, and at one point it was like maybe they are content with where they are. I don't know how they would be, but maybe. But I don't know. I feel like change is happening, so that's good. But like I was just saying to you, just because there are open spots doesn't mean
Yeah.
they're going to get filled with the proper or solid pieces, right? Like we've been here before. This exact team basically. Uh, Klopas is still there. I think that might be the next domino here that we might need to fall.
I
But
was gonna say I think that's the expected next domino, but yes.
but yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think whoever comes in at the end of the season, this off season will be a big one and an important one.
Look, from my outside viewpoint looking in, Heitz got hired before the 2020 season. Obviously, he had to handle some things and figure out some things during a COVID era that I don't think was easy on any club around the world or anyone globally around the world. And I think he got through 2020 and 2021 fine, but I think from like since that probably mid 21 on, it hasn't been great. Obviously, Xherdan Shaqiri, the money spent on him, the absolute ridiculous salary spent on him, and the DP spot that hasn't worked out. He, sure, numbers wise, 16 goals, 13 assists, and 75 games for the Fire isn't awful, but at the end of the day, he's not out there producing as one of the top paid players in Major League Soccer.
He's honestly not even close. Like, I mean, I think if you watch the games, it's the effort. I think is a big thing that a lot of people started to notice, and just it wasn't there, and it never was good enough for arguably one of the highest paid players in MLS, and never was getting to be close. Like
Yeah.
he had some moments where it was like, oh, okay, like if he could do this, but when you can see him on the national team and it's just night and day difference, that's effort. And
Well, isn't that? I mean, look, outside of a few stops, that's that is the storyline of Shaqiri's career for the most part. But well, I think we don't need to go down a Xherdan Shaqiri hate list today. Ultimately, I think it's good that he's gone. The money, the roster designation spot, the effort, the talent, the results, whatever, all gone. And I think it's a good thing for the Fire trying to move forward. I think the Georg Heitz departure will be a good thing moving forward. And yes, you guys have been in this spot before, but it is a sign that people are recognizing that it's not good enough, and it is
someone is paying attention. Someone's caring.
exactly
So
exactly
hopefully
the
better times to come, but it remains to be seen
the
how well
one thing that I want to toss your way, and I am not the person who came up with this, but I would also be lying if I didn't think of this. Would you be okay with maybe a big splash hire of some potential former USMNT manager coming in as sporting director and head coach of the Chicago Fire? I won't say names because I still think US soccer fandom's a little sensitive to the name right now.
I personally wouldn't mind it at all. Okay, especially if unnamed man has had success in this league before and knows what he's doing. I think, yeah, I wouldn't mind at all. Hey, look at. So I mean, for an example,
Yes.
the women's team obviously was coached by Vlatko and Danovsky. It did not end well. A lot of people did not want him to remain, and now he's killing it again in NWSL. So all I'm saying is there's sometimes you just got to get back to that club environment
Look, sometimes, yes, sometimes players or coaches just translate to their players better or translate results
on a
better.
week to week basis instead of a month to month.
Exactly. I'm just saying it could get real interesting with three G's on the end of that interesting right there. But we move forward. We advance from the Chicago Fire talk, and we have to start rolling through some of these transfers. And I'm going to try to intertwine a little. I guess Leagues Cup news, since that is the only games going on right now. But St. Louis City, they were eliminated from Leagues Cup last night or 2 nights ago, if you're listening to this on day of drop. But they were eliminated by Club America 4-2, so one of the two remaining Mexican clubs still in the competition. But St. Louis have tried to now continue to recreate this roster into a winning roster, as we've talked about other moves in the past. But they have signed left back. I'm going to go Jans Horn on loan from FC Nuremberg in the 2 Bundesliga, so he'll be on the roster through next summer. They've also gone out and traded center back Tim Parker and $600,000 worth of general allocation money to the New England Revolution for center back Henry Kessler. I mean, the recreation of this back line that I think wasn't maybe the biggest concern, but still was a concern because they were allowing goals in good bunches through I think the first half of this season. Any hope for what St. Louis is doing, or you think they're just again recognizing maybe we aren't what we were last year? Yes, we're regressing to the mean, as people like to say over and over again about St. Louis, but they're trying to improve for the future.
Yeah, I think you made that splash in MLS coming in and winning the conference in your first year. Now, obviously, it's not. They're down in 13th in the West right now. It hasn't been the season they probably were hoping for, but like you said, sometimes the shiny blue new object is no longer shiny, right?
Yes.
And it's a lot harder to keep on going. But I like it. I mean, I think they are preparing for a longer term success. It's just they have to get through some of like the slog of the seasons leading up to that. Um, I I think like what we saw with Cincinnati was a very slow build to get to where they are now.
Yeah.
And they obviously didn't make the impression St. Louis did in their first season, but it could be like a similar type of now building slowly, building a more sustainable team that they can actually go on and win a lot more trophies.
No, I mean, I think it's not always going to be amazing, especially building something from the ground up, right? Or coming into a league from the ground up. I think the Cincinnati comparison's fair there. And I think they're trying to build themselves an identity. And one season, one successful season isn't going to be that long term identity build or learning how to continue to create, continue to win, and be successful in a league, right? They're doing it, and the Jans Horn move is another German coming over to St. Louis and trying to be a lockdown player coming over from the 2 Bundesliga. He's been successful there. He's had a bunch of success across Nuremberg, Cologne, Wolfsburg, Hanover, and a few other clubs in Germany. And I think it's the type of profile that they're looking to pair along with maybe some not so, I don't want to say not so known, but not so maybe like flashy American signings that they can kind of do that with. And it seems to be that they're slowly building this for what they want 2025 to be, because the Marcel Hartels, the winger that they brought in from the two Bundesliga, he seems to be great, and he's started, and I think he's already scored in his two pieces. Edward Loven slowly getting reintroduced back into the team. I like what they're doing, and I have faith in what this front office is doing. I just don't think it's it for right now. And the Tim Parker trade, I'll mention it just because it was a move that happened. He was on a very high salary contract. I think he was arguably maybe their second best player behind Roman Berkey, and I love Tim Parker, Long Island guy. That's my dude. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think when you're a veteran center back in Major League Soccer on a high contract, on a high salary, you're always going to be a trade bait pretty much at the end of the day, and they got rid of that off their books for a pretty good center back in return.
I think just like also like they're getting a little bit younger with these moves too. I think they're trying to build a team that they can have for 2, 3, 4, 5, however many years. And like you said, build an identity with a team that they can actually keep together. Maybe that you fill in the edges, but you're not wholesale changes every transfer window. So I think we might see like this transfer window, maybe there's another one or two that are bigger changes, but then hopefully they get that identity, they get that team that they can kind of keep together and build around, and then create something that's just been consistent.
No, and I think another team trying to do that right now, and less maybe building an identity, but maybe more kind of tearing it down to build it back up in how he wants, is Caleb Porter and the New England Revolution, right? They acquire Tim Parker from St. Louis, so they acquire that veteran maybe piece to pair next to Xavier Arriaga, who they brought in earlier this season. They go out, they sign a DP level winger from Boca Juniors. They splash the money, and they make the winger Luca Langoni. He is the club record signing for New England, who's obviously been around. It's a reported $7 million transfer fee. And apologies, he's a U22 initiative signing, not a DP. I saw $7 million and I was like, that has to be a DP, but no, we're on the U22 initiative side there. And New England also goes out and signs a center mid, a defensive mid, Al Hassan Yusuf, from Royal Antwerp in the Belgian top division for a reported $2 million. So New England spending cash this window. I think this is Caleb Porter being like, okay, it was a very bad start to the season. Historically bad start to the season. My star DP and Carlos Hill looks like a shell of himself. We can't score. We're letting up goals in bunches. Now, we're gonna spend cash, and we're gonna build the roster, and we're gonna build this team how I see fit and how I want to play the game. And I think he's doing that this window. Well, I think the Revs overall have been doing that this window.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Revs, I at least had very high expectations for. I think Caleb Porter, we've seen have success in MLS, and it's just it was surprising, at least to me, with how poorly it has gone. But it seems like they're willing to kind of like keep Caleb Porter around, let him start to build, and kind of like with St. Louis, New England's got to do the same thing. They got to continue to build. They have to almost do like a full rebuild, like mid-season. Obviously, they have a decent amount of injuries this season, and they haven't really had any success. And I say this as someone who's tied on points with them, but or 2 above. But like I think at least there's good players on this roster. I think some of the moves they made have brought in better players too, and like the talent's there. The on-field stuff hasn't worked out, but going into next season, I don't think I would put like this team in 15th or whatever. Like it's not. The talent is not equal to what is happening right now. So hopefully like they can continue to improve, and Caleb Porter can kind of get his guys in there, get people he wants, and he feels like he can build a strong team around.
No, I agree. I think sporting director and Xherdan Alfo and this ownership group are obviously putting the faith in Caleb Porter to do what he's done in Portland, in Columbus, right? And they're not afraid to get rid of guys. They've gotten rid of DeJuan Jones, like we talked about last week. Now Henry Kessler, Henrik Ravas.
Yeah.
They've gotten rid of a lot of guys who they've spent cash on, and they've brought in Ivacic from free agency. They've brought in these, Langoni from Boca Juniors now, Al Hassan Youssef from Royal Antwerp. They're bringing in guys trying to, I think, mesh in some of the youth that they have on this roster. When you talk about Esmir Baharaktarovic, or you're talking about, a Noel Buck, who they'll probably sign to an English club this winter. It feels like, right? So I think ultimately they're trying to put this into the vision of what Caleb Porter wants, and it's been better in recent time. They had a little bit of a Leagues Cup run, obviously losing in PKs to NYCFC in that first knockout round game, but things have been better for the Revs. I'm not saying I think this team is going to be a playoff team by the end of the season, but I think you're starting to see the positive uptick for
They
it.
honestly aren't that far out
No,
from like the play in.
yes.
So
I mean, look, the bottom of both or that mid tier of both conferences is very competitive right now, and it'll be an interesting end to a season for sure.
really, everyone outside of San Jose. Sorry, San Jose fans.
And Chicago.
I mean, it's just the reality of it. Really, everyone outside of you is competitive in
Yes.
some way. In some way.
Yes. I'm going to quickly roll through these moves, but pretty much LAFC, they've gotten rid of some players on their roster for this season. LAFC, they've loaned out strikers Tomas Angel and Mario Gonzalez for the rest of the 2024 season. Angel going out on loan to USL Championship side Phoenix Rising, and Gonzalez going out on loan to Liga Portugal. And then they've also gone out and terminated the contract of midfielder Francisco Hinella, who has been on loan down in Uruguay, and now, officially getting him off the books and freeing up an international roster spot there. All of this seems to be hinting at that maybe LAFC are going after another certain Frenchman that has been rumored to be out there on the market. The transfer, as of, just to let people know, as of this recording, the transfer window isn't officially done yet. That is going to happen at noon Central Time on the 14th. Sorry, not noon. Midnight Central Time on the 14th. But I think, I don't think Griezmann's coming to LAFC this window. But reports from Tom Bogert are saying it's maybe less of an if and more of a when that happens for LA and Griezmann. So very cool stuff happening out in LA, obviously, once again there.
Cool for them, man. As Olivier Giroud makes his first debut or whatever,
Yeah,
debuts for them yet last
exactly. Yeah. Oh, that is a good point to actually bring up. Yeah, LAFC. Go ahead.
Just to tie in LAFC's Leagues Cup.
No, I said I was going to try to do that, and I totally didn't do it. But yes, LAFC in Leagues Cup so far, knocking out Austin 2-0, and then in their next knockout round phase, they took down San Jose 4-1. Giroud debuted. It's strong LAFC performances, and now they'll be taking on the Seattle Sounders in the quarterfinal. But we'll talk about that a little bit more. Minnesota United, they're doing some stuff. First of all, they've loaned out winger Patrick Weah and center back Morris Duggan for the rest of the 2024 season. Duggan will go on loan to the USL, and Weah is going to go on loan to Danish second division club HB Koge. They've also reportedly are loaning out Alejandro Braun to the EFL League One over in England. So that's not official yet, but that's apparently almost done. But Minnesota United, the only real response in return is signing a new right wing back in Matas Komet from the Slovakian First Division. Eric Ramsey digging deep in spots to try to find it, but it's also not too unfamiliar from Minnesota United to look in, Slovakia, Slovenia, regions like that or countries like that for talent. They've been doing that since their inception there. Let's keep things moving with Montreal. So CF Montreal, they've had themselves a busy transfer window. They've acquired attacking midfielder Caden Clark from Minnesota United for $50,000 in GAM, a second round super draft pick, and potential for another $100,000 in GAM. And Minnesota also gets to keep the sell on percentage for Clark if he is sold outside of Major League Soccer. CF Montreal, they've also acquired right wing back Shaquille Marshall-Ruddy from Toronto FC for $850,000 in GAM, with potential to make that. I think it's like 1.25 million in GAM if certain incentives are hit, and Toronto also get to keep the sell-on percentage for Marshall-Ruddy. And then Montreal also traded away right back Juan to FC Dallas for $50,000 in GAM and potential for another $100,000 in GAM if certain incentives are hit. So, Jason, Montreal moving shit around, bringing in players, getting rid of guys. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. It's Montreal. They just seem to bring in youth, try to sell them. It's wild. But what's your take right now on Montreal?
I mean, I would say they're trying to like push for playoffs, but at the same time, I don't feel like these moves necessarily like are like the big time moves you look at and go, oh, they're definitely trying to add depth or push. They're in a weird spot. Like, first of all, Caden Clark, like, it's crazy. He's still only 21. I really still am holding out for him to find success. Hopefully, it's in Montreal. But yeah, I don't know what they're doing over there. It honestly just seems like they are throwing shit at the wall, hoping it sticks. Right, like a couple young guys, and then you get Ruan. Oh, and then they trade Ruan. So like they bring in a couple young players. It's not necessarily like a push for this year, which makes me think that it's maybe loading up for next season. Maybe they want to see what they have for half a season and then go into next year. But it's not your typical like mid-season transfer window. I feel like
to me, it just feels very typical Montreal. I don't know, like they
just like, oh, they're doing stuff, but who knows if it's who knows what it's going to be.
I mean, literally, they fire sporting director a few weeks ago at this point because of disagreements with ownership, and Joey Saputo does not like to flash the cash. We know that. He likes to, he barely uses DP spots. Victor Wanyama is still on this roster technically as a VP, but the dude doesn't, as a DP, but the dude doesn't play. I think it's very much let's load up on potential pieces who can grow into something that we can sell. And if it all hits together in a flash of a pan and we can go on a run like they did, 3 years ago, or like they did, I'm going to make a comparison to where he did splash some cash, but in that like Didier Drogba, era of CF Montreal or the Montreal Impact at the time, I think that's what they're hoping for is like, okay, every few years we'll bring in a big name, Drogba, Wanyama, whatever, and then we're just going to kind of hope that ultimately all the youth we bring in can develop at the same time, and we can have a time where Caden Clark, Bryce Duke, Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy, and George Campbell, and all these guys are just clicking, and we go on a run, but we're going to sell them all the next season. That's just what it feels like to me.
They're trying to strike lightning all at once or something. Like they're trying to get it to be perfect. It feels like when it's not, they just almost do a full reset.
100%. But they've had so many opportunities to, if they just spent a little bit more cash, or if they just brought in a DP at the right time to pair along with whoever we're talking about. Montreal could have won an MLS Cup at some point. It just feels like to me, but they just don't, because that's what their ownership does, and that's what their front office does, and that's why they've gone through sporting directors and coaches and all of that. And and here we are. I hope that.
If they could have used that time with Piatti as like, let's just spend, they probably do have an MLS Cup.
I mean, I don't even think you have to go that far back with Piatti. I think you can just go to the Ismail Kone, Alistair Johnston, Georgi Mihailovic era of CF
Oh yeah,
Montreal.
like 3 years ago.
Yeah, when
2
Wilfred
years.
Nancy is
Oh yeah.
coaching it, but then you trade away the potential, well, not potential, now best manager in the league. It's just this is typical Montreal. I think they have a lot of youth, a lot of talent. I hope that Caden Clark can develop back into that European level guy we saw with the Red Bulls, and Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy can hit his peak, but I don't know what I'm expecting from Montreal at this point, to be honest. But we move on, I guess. The Portland Timbers, just going to quickly mention these two moves, but they've mutually parted ways with two players this window. One, striker Nathan Fogaka. It's Brazilian, so they do the Portuguese thing, and I can't do it. So sorry, Nathan. But he hasn't really been a factor, and they've brought in Mason Toy to really be that backup striker in up in Portland. And then the Timbers also mutually parting ways with center back Larry's Mabiala. A few weeks ago, Mabiala came out in a press conference really just kind of stating that, I think it was the final group stage game was going to be the final game with him in a Timbers uniform because he was kind of dealing with some mental health stuff. He needed to step away from the game professionally and that he would be retiring. And it's unfortunate. The dude has been around Portland and MLS for a while. He won an MLS back his trophy, with the Timbers back in 2020. He had almost 180 career games played for the Timbers across all competitions. Obviously, the culture of the Portland Timbers is one when they bring someone in, they like to try to keep them around, and I think that's what they did with Mabiala. And he was a great, I think representation of that for the club. But sucks to see him go there. Anything you want to say about those two moves, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, Mabiala has been like a staple there for so long. I feel like in Portland, whenever someone retires and it's a Portland player, it's like, oh shit, they've been there for 5-6+ years, and it's that, like you said, they bring people in, and if they gel and really kind of find their ground there, they're long-term players, and it's kind of a nice thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm going to roll through the Union's moves. They have signed 17-year-old central midfielder CJ Olney to a homegrown contract from the Philadelphia Union 2. They've also loaned out homegrown striker Nelson Pierre to USL League One side Charlotte Independence. But I guess the biggest of the moves that they've done in this window so far is officially signing central midfielder, defensive midfielder Donley Jean-Jacques from FC Metz in Ligue 2. Last season, he played in Ligue 1 with Metz. But he's a full Haitian international. He has a good amount of games under his career for someone who's only 24 years old. But last season played 2,800 minutes across all comps in France, in the top division in France, and definitely, I think just kind of seems like, to me, a move for the Union where they're expecting to probably sell a Jack McGlynn, maybe sell a Quinn Sullivan, but just kind of loading up for 2025 in all honesty to me, and maybe bolster the roster a little bit for the rest of this season.
Honestly, like I feel the Union are going to have a sneaky good second half of the season.
Well,
I think we've already. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you're seeing it, but go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're already seeing such a huge improvement from the start of the season to now. Currently in Leagues Cup, they just beat Cincinnati on Tuesday night, which 4-2 in like just a crazy game. Like you missed that one. That was a great one. But they're gonna move on. They'll have Mazatlan in the quarterfinal. Since Andre Blake is back, there's just a confidence in that team now, and I mean, I'd be pretty confident if I had him behind me. But,
yes.
I just think this Philly team from the beginning of the season, where it was like, is Jim Curtin, on his way out, to now is night and day. They're sitting in 10th on 27 points in the Eastern Conference, 1 spot, 1 point behind Atlanta in 9th. I would not be surprised at all to see them in the playoffs at the end of the season, and potentially not the team I'd want to play if I finished high up.
No, they feel like a playoff team to me. I know there's some reports Tom Bogert's kind of had out there that Jose Martinez might be sold before the transfer window ends today, or yesterday, for people listening. So that would be
If
a
he's
big
sold,
blow.
they'll know, but we won't.
Yes, yes. You'll know if Jose Martinez is gone. We're not official on it yet, but Jose Martinez might be gone. That's a big blow at the 6. So then maybe the Donley Jean Jacques move kind of is bigger, and he does expect to play a bigger role this season. You still have Jesus Bueno as well on the roster, but Philly have been playing much better. Like you said, Jason, they're into the quarterfinals of League Cup. Ty Baribo has been an absolute leader in that. I think he has like 9 goals in his last 7 games for the Union. He's on fire. So, Philly definitely bouncing back for sure. And a team that, I mean, they're not even bouncing back. They're just continuing to steamroll everything is the Columbus Crew. They add another piece. They've signed the right wing back, Andres Herrera, on loan from River Plate through next summer. He's a 25-year-old Argentine wingback. He's played for River Plate and San Lorenzo down in Argentina. He's won titles. He's won cups. He's won it all with River Plate pretty much. And, he kind of just comes in as another piece on Columbus's roster, with Mo Farsi at that kind of right wing back spot. Max Arfston also can play a
Their
little
wing
right
back
wing back.
depth is crazy, which is huge because that's like Wilfred Nancy's favorite thing to use. His wing backs and their depth and quality at those positions is so massive.
Exactly. And that's why I think, Columbus continues to have to be the favorite for everything they play in. I personally think they're the best team in Major League Soccer. And unfortunately for me, they
You
have
have a
they're,
fun
they're
matchup.
yeah, exactly. We're facing we're facing them in the quarterfinals. NYCFC. We've gotten our little run going, but here we are. So yeah, NYCFC taking on Columbus this Saturday, and we'll talk about it a little bit more because NYCFC finally made a move, not for the better, but here we are. I'll roll into that. New York City FC. They've loaned out DP Talles Magno to Brazilian Serie A side Corinthians FC. Obviously, the 22-year-old DP won MLS Cup and won a Campeones Cup with NYCFC. I'm honestly really sad to see this one go. I think the club has absolutely botched the potential that. I mean, Magno is going to be a star. In my personal opinion, I just think it wasn't with NYCFC. They tried forcing him to be a striker when the dude is an out and out game changing winger. They tried forcing him to be Tati Castellanos, and he's not. But ultimately, he's going to go down. I think he has 2 goals in 2 games for Corinthians already. So it is what it is. But
No, he's
hopefully,
just
that
gonna be
just
sad forever every time he succeeds.
every single time I see him score a goal, I'm just going to be like, well, that could have been for City. But no, look, ultimately, I think this is just NYCFC opening up a DP spot for 2025. Hopefully, they can sell Magno and recoup some of the money that they spent for him. And it's sad. I wish he stuck around and could have been part of, I think, a very fun team right now. A team that just beat Tigres 2-1 in the round of 16, whatever the fuck it is, round of 32, whatever. And
No,
now
16. Don't
round of
sell
16.
short.
I can't do basic math, Jason. Okay, just please.
It's just counting.
I can't do that. Can't do that. But
Yeah, we
yeah,
don't count.
no, we don't count here. But now we have to travel to Columbus August 17th this Saturday, and have to go for another magical performance and see if we can beat the best team in Major League Soccer. But we'll see what happens. Charlotte FC, they have signed center back Tim Ream from Fulham from the Premier League. I mean, you guys know Tim Ream. We love him. We've talked about him. USMNT International, over 500 career games played between the Red Bulls, Bolton, and Fulham. I mean, the dude has won EFL championships. The dude has won CONCACAF Nations League. He has been the steadfast piece for for the USMNT over the last few years, and now will hopefully be that piece for Charlotte as they also lose out on a few big time transfers this window. And I'm not gloating Charlotte fans, but a lot of positive, a lot of cocky talk from Charlotte fans. No Miguel Almiron coming, no Stengs
I was
coming.
gonna say, where's Miggy?
No Giovanni Lo Celso. So Charlotte, you have to be happy with
Hey, I would
your.
be happy with Tim Ream. I feel like that would be a good consolation.
I mean, in all honesty, a center back group of Tim Ream, Adelson Malanda, and Andrew Privet might be the best trio of center backs in Major League Soccer at this point. I don't know if I would have said that maybe last year, but here we are, and I think Charlotte are a very good defensive side, and this only just makes them better with an absolute leader in the back.
It is going to be a bummer turning on Fulham games and not seeing Tim Ream.
I just went to Fulham State. I just went to the cottage
Yeah.
out of Tim Ream jersey. I'm so pissed off, but here we
Hey,
are.
there's a good time to do it right before.
Yes, exactly. Right, exactly. Inter Miami, they've transferred homegrown forward Shandier Borjalan to Danish First Division side. Vencelev FF, not even going to try that, but, good on you,
Nailed it.
Borjalan. Go, kill it. FC Cincinnati, they've terminated the contract of DP striker Aaron Bupenza. The 28-year-old Gabon international did win a supporter shield with the club last year, but he's had as many ups and downs off the field, some alleged incidents off the field, and it never worked out for Bupenza with Cincinnati. I think it's going to be a little too late for them to get that DP replacement this window. But hopefully for 2025, this club that is willing to spend the cash can bring in a big time DP striker that does what they were hoping Bupenza would do for the club after the Brandon Vasquez transfer and the Brenner transfer and all of that. But Jason, any Bupenza takes?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just never worked out, especially with some off the field issues. So it's kind of like move on. Like you said, Cincinnati's not afraid to spend money. I think this season is obviously not gone to plan, especially with some major injuries to some pretty massive core pieces in the back on defense. So, I mean, there's still in second, right? Like, there's still a very good, talented team. They unfortunately lost last night, like I said earlier, to Philly. But it's not like they're not competitive, and they're still going to be a tough team to beat, especially in the playoffs. So the season's not lost, but I feel like it is definitely not gone exactly how they had hoped for it, especially with, what that defense could have looked like without injuries.
Yeah, I mean, look, Nick Hagglund, Miazga done for the season. Miles Robinson has been gone for 2 months from this team.
Yeah.
Bupenza didn't bounce back like they probably hoped. You still have Lucho, you still have Orejano, who's been insane, and Obi Nobuodo, and they just brought in.
Kubo, we like Kubo.
We love Kubo. We're a big Kubo pod, but they just brought in Ali Azam as well as a center back signing. So I think Cincinnati's going to be fine. It probably could be better if some of these pieces were here, but I think that they're going to be fine. They're going to be battling for top of the East with the Miamis and the Columbuses of the world.
I mean, they're still head and shoulders above probably 85% of the league.
Lucho is still Lucho. He's still MVP front runner, and I mean that is what it is. He's still a beast. He's still the dude right now, running around Major League Soccer. The Vancouver Whitecaps, they have signed right wing back Edier Ocampo on a U22 initiative deal from Colombian side Atlético Nacional. He's won a bunch down in Colombia. He's played a bunch of minutes, and hopefully, for Vancouver, he can develop into Vanni Sartini's right wing back of the future. Vanni Sartini, just as much as Wilfred Nancy loves his wing backs, and hopefully this kid can develop into that for them. Real Salt Lake. We've been talking a lot of RSL, and because we should be, because they're very good and they're making a lot of moves. It's not absolutely official yet, but they are, Andres Gomez is most likely sold right now to a league onside Stade Rams, I'm pretty sure. So he's gone for a few $1 million deal. So that is a DP that will be departing the club, is gone from the club at time of listening for you all. But they've also tried to replace that DP level talent with signing attacking midfielder Diogo Goncalves from CF Copenhagen, as reported by Tom Bogert. This is a $3 million deal. He will occupy occupy a DP spot. He has been a very effective player with 31 career goals and 27 career assists for Benfica, Copenhagen, Nottingham Forest, and I think a few other clubs in Liga Portugal. Last season for Copenhagen was very strong. I think he had 17 goal contributions for them across all competitions. And no offense to Matty Crooks, but I think Goncalves is probably an upgrade at a DP number 10 level there for RSL. And, they've also loaned out Elijah Paul to MLS Next Pro Ventura County FC. But that's not the point. Sorry, Elijah. RSL right now, I think I would have preferred to have seen them keep Andres Gomez and then add Diogo Goncalves. But ultimately when the price comes in that you have to accept it is what it is, and he's gone. He's getting his opportunity in Europe, and now they're trying to continue that retool for a trophy winning season.
Yeah, and I think when you have someone like Chicho Arango playing at the level he's at currently, I would personally say putting anyone around him is probably going to be successful, right? Like anyone with decent talent. So I think where their attack is currently is pretty scary. That is a team that is definitely gearing up for a late push. Whether they think they're already pushed, but they're basically at the top of the West, or right around there, and a deep run is in the cards there if they continue to get the most out of their players, and Arango plays at a Messi-like MVP level.
And slightly breaking news. I mean, for you and I, it's probably breaking news. But at this point, Tom Bogert's also reporting that RSL has completed the deal to sign Polish youth international winger Dominik Marczuk from I can't even pronounce that club. I apologize. But
it's the first time you're ever reading it too.
U22 initiative deal. The fee Tom is reporting is around 1.5 million. So adding him along with Benji Michel, Goncalves, Lachlan Brook, the Australian that they brought in a few weeks ago as well that we talked about. I mean, RSL seems to have replaced we'll see if any of these guys can replace what Andres Gomez has done this year, which has been fantastic, but replace Andres Gomez and Fidel Barajas in that attack. So look, I like what RSL is doing. Good for them. Good for Salt Lake.
Hey, this is like what we're talking about with Montreal. It's just RSL's actually doing it. They're actually going in.
Well, look, I'll actually give it to RSL since the ownership change and since I think some changes in that front office and giving full faith into Pablo Mastroeni. They've spent the money. I feel like they've had multiple transfers that have broken transfer fees. They've been selling players, developing. Like, they've been doing it well. So I'll give RSL all the love in the world. I think they're doing it right, and I hope to see this team raise some kind of trophy by the end of the season for sure. As long as it's not in place for New York City to win anything, but we'll take that as it comes. The final transfer, Sporting Kansas City. They've signed center back Joaquin Fernandez via free agency. The 28-year-old Spanish defender last plays for Trabzonspor in Turkey, where he only played about 550 minutes last season, but he also has some experience playing in Spain's top two divisions between Real Valladolid and Almeria. Sporting Kansas City, I'm not giving this too much love. You need a lot of help, and sure, there's the move. Good for you. They might you. I personally think, I know they made it into the knockout round of Leagues Cup, but I think they might be the worst team in MLS, but that's just me. Gotta give some love. What'd you say?
Worse than San Jose.
Yeah, I'm going to go with it at this point. San Jose's been playing a little bit better. I know they just got smacked by LAFC, but, they just also beat Necaxa 5-0, so I also should give them that, But, yeah, I'm going to say Sporting Kansas City worse than San Jose right now in my brain. Let's close the door on the Olympics because we didn't get a chat about it last week, and just quickly mention the U.S. men's U23s. We'll start with the negatives. They lost to Morocco's U23 side 4-0 in the quarterfinals. We're going to leave it at that. It was a bad showing. It was a bad game, and Morocco came fully loaded to I think, try to win gold in this competition. And I know they fell short of that, but Morocco had a very good, strong team out there. But U.S. women's national team, Jason, they went on to the gold medal match. They won the gold medal, taking down Brazil. They beat a tough Japan side. They beat a tough Germany side. They went into extra time multiple times. They got some late winners, some moments of magic, some solid defensive work. I mean, this is a team that I think ultimately overcame a lot of people who I think had some doubts maybe about who wasn't called up, who was called up, whatever, and they went out and they showed it every single game. It wasn't the prettiest always, but we're gold medal winners once
Hey,
again.
we're back. We're back.
That's it.
Don't doubt Emma Hayes. That's it, man. Like, it was a fun tournament. Watching the games, like, they were close. The talent gap is obviously closed. I think we all kind of knew that already. But there's still so much talent. Like, it's just so much fun to watch. So yeah, gold medal. Let's go.
We are gonna wrap this up with Leagues Cup, right? We're down to the final 8. We're in the quarterfinals. We've mentioned a few of these matchups already. We've talked about Columbus versus NYCFC. We've talked about Philly versus Mazatlan this upcoming Saturday. But on the other side of the bracket, we have LAFC taking on the Seattle Sounders. That little rivalry there, I think, is going to get another round because this has quietly been, I think, a very tense teams don't like each other matchup in the past. And then the other game on that side of the bracket is Colorado Rapids. They are going to be hosting Club America, the last, gigante of North America left in this competition. Is there a quarterfinal matchup? And we can kind of tie this into Jason's, pick of the week here. But
Pick of the week.
is there a quarterfinal matchup that stands out to you the most that you're like, this is going to be the game on the big TV this Saturday?
Oh man, honestly, there's very good ones. I think
we're going to talk about them all, so don't worry about it.
I think I would probably say, like, to start, I would be most interested to see what Colorado can do against Club America, who's coming off of a 4-2 win for St. Louis. I just think, like, we get the inter-MLS matchups all the time, obviously. Watching MLS, we don't get the Liga MX versus MLS as often.
Yes.
And I think this is a winnable game for Colorado, but a very tough one. So I'm curious to see how they perform. And also, like, this is Colorado made a lot of changes in the offseason, and this is kind of like why. So winning this game would be pretty big for them and kind of going farther and farther in this tournament. Like, that's a huge improvement from, Colorado of years past. It's very up and down or very bad.
I don't think you or I had much faith in Colorado coming into the season, and what they've done in MLS, I think, has been very impressive, putting themselves maybe not top 3 in the West, but like that kind of 4 or 5 team-ish in the Western Conference. And then what they've done in this competition, they've drawn Lyon in the group stage, and I think Lyon won on penalties, but whatever. They drew Lyon. They beat Juarez.
No, Colorado won on penalties.
Colorado won on penalties, thank you. They beat Juarez in the first knockout stage game, and then, 2 nights ago, last night, whatever, they beat Toluca, and they've looked fantastic in Leagues Cup. So they've taken down ultimately 3 Liga MX sides in their last 3 games. And Chris Armas has this team playing in a very different style than I think we see a lot of other MLS teams play. I very nervously want to say I think the Rapids have a decent shot at taking down Club America, but at the end of the day, it's still one of the best teams in the region that has broken MLS hearts year after year. So I don't want to get too hyped up on that, but I agree with you there.
I just think it's a big game. It's a big game for Colorado, who, like you said, are playing confident, shouldn't have much fear of Mexican teams at this point after, like you said, the last 3 games they've played. They've won all 3 of them against Mexican sides. So I don't know. I think there's hope there, but it's probably the toughest matchup, I would say, well, I don't know. I feel like if you were going to go in MLS matchups, and Seattle versus LAFC might be the toughest, like, head-to-head. But
Yeah.
I think Colorado has a very tough draw there. So
No, look, if Colorado can do this, if they can knock off Club America, no matter who else they face in Seattle or LAFC, I think you got to give them the shout that they can go on and make this Leagues Cup tournament theirs in 2024. But that's also, I'm not trying to look over Club America. That's a very difficult feat, and then taking on a Seattle or an LAFC side who Seattle's hot. LAFC might be the hottest team in Major League Soccer when you look
LAFC
at
is just LAFC. You don't even have
Bro,
to say anything after. It's just that's what they do.
I'm gonna fully expect Olivier Giroud to be starting this Seattle matchup. I don't know if he's gonna be ready for it, but I fully expect him for the intensity is what I'm saying. And then I mean like that side of the bracket's sick. I think those are the best games of the weekend. And then on the other side, Columbus, NYCFC. I'm fully rooting for New York City. The win over Tigres, I will put it down as the third biggest win in club history. I've tweeted it, I've texted you, I've said it, whatever. But they have to now travel to Columbus and take on, the reigning MLS Cup champs, the Columbus Crew that's been dominating. And then Philly Mazatlan, unfortunately, to me, I kind of feel like falls to the worst game of these quarterfinals, but maybe that's just me. I don't know.
I just think Philly's been playing at a pretty high level, and the Zatlan, at least in Liga MX standards, is towards the bottom. So I think I'm not gonna say I've watched a ton of Mazatlan, but I don't have as high. I guess like if we're talking that, there's a reason I picked Club America versus Colorado for that game as interesting.
I agree. I mean, look, Mazatlan, they almost blew a 2-0 lead over Cruz Azul up a man. They beat DC 2-1. They lost to New England 1-0 in this competition.
They were up a man against DC too for a little bit, right? Or was that right at the end?
That was right at the end, I'm pretty sure. So I mean, look, I think Philly have a good shout, but again, it's a Liga MX opponent. It's always going to be tough. It's going to be chippy. So we'll see. Jason, I think that's it news-wise. I think that's it podcast-wise. Anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
Honestly, like I've been enjoying Leagues Cup. Don't crucify me. I like it. It's kind of fun to watch. The games have been good. It's the quarterfinals now, so just get on board. At least at this point, people are going to be watching the finals and stuff. So
exactly. And if you need a reason to want to watch Leagues Cup, go back and watch the Crew Miami game and just watch that.
Oh yeah, incredible.
Incredible.
The Crew coming in from 2 goals down. First of all, just impressive. The Crew are just never out. It's terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. And look, hopefully we get more fireworks this upcoming weekend. But Jason, thank you once again, listeners. Thank you for listening. And we'll catch you guys next week as we hopefully preview a final. Peace. Oh, I need to end the recording over here.